Welcome back to TMZ Live, and this may be a case where technology really can make a difference that people have been calling for all around the country with police departments and how they react in cases where they're dealing with people of color. We've seen countless examples of this over decades, but really with the body cams now, we are seeing more of this, and there is a police department that is using some of that video to train police officers virtually, to do virtual learning on some high-profile cases. It's in Sacramento, and it is a really revolutionary program, which, look, we're all looking for answers here on how to change police culture, and this is one method that they are trying. So without further ado, let's bring in Sacramento Police Chief Daniel Hahn. Chief Hahn, welcome to TMZ Live.
Hey, Chief Hahn.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
We appreciate having you. So, when I heard about this, it reminded me a little bit of what pilots do with flight simulators, that they try to encounter these emergency situations and how to react. Explain how this works. You're seeing how officers react in the moment, and then you train them afterward, or do you talk to them before?
This is one piece of what we do in the Sacramento Police Department. We teach history and implicit bias and do scenarios, even outside of this. But this is a new piece of equipment that, every officer puts something like this on their head, and it's completely immersive. It has sound going into their ears, and it allows us to change the scenarios and put somebody there as realistically as we possibly can, even more so than our simulation machine that we've used for years. And we can change the scenario. The systems have the capability of 3D scanning any environment. So it could be, the soon to be championship Sacramento Kings arena. It could be a high school in our city. So it's the actual environment that the officers would be responding to. So it's a pretty cool new piece of equipment.
Chief Hahn, give us some examples of cases that I know that a very high profile case you had right there in Sacramento was the shooting of Stephon Clark in his grandmother's backyard in 2018. Is that something that prompted you to want to start this program? And do you use the body cam video from that case to train officers?
Well, we use all sorts of cases. We'll use it. We're not ashamed to use a case in another city. And that's one of the unique things about this system. We can input whatever scenario we want into these systems, including, like I just mentioned, real environments in our city that officers would be responding to. So it's the real situation. And we don't just use virtual reality. We incorporate these real scenarios into our scenario training, into our classroom instruction, we have whole blocks of instruction and scenarios on intervention. So one officer intervening, which we've heard a lot about in the George Floyd case. So we can incorporate that into this virtual reality equipment, but also into our scenarios that we do out in the field.
So when you do this with them, I'm assuming you get data back on how they react and respond to these situations. What did you find? Did you find there is a problem with de-escalation? Did you find that they learned? Yeah, that they learned anything from all of what we've been hearing over the last couple of years. I'm really fascinated to know what you found with these officers.
Well, in terms of the virtual reality system, we've only had that for about a month. So we don't have that sort of data, and we're not, we haven't run enough people through it to get to those sort of things. But yes, you can replay this, so the person can take the equipment off, and then you can all watch it on the screen of what they actually did. And this system we have has things like this to where you strap on your wrist. And so you don't have to pull a piece of equipment from your belt. It also shows where your hands are going. So we incorporate first aid afterwards, so we can review all those sort of things. But in regards to your question, whether there's bias and things, we have organizations like Stanford University doing studies with our body camera system right now in regards to the relationship between officers and our community and any biases. And we'll eventually, when that study is done, come back with recommendations.
Chief, I wanted to commend you on something I heard you say in an interview last week this just struck me as different because we don't hear it often, but you were acknowledging, look, there is an implicit bias in policing. and that we have to sort of acknowledge that before it's going to get better. And I thought that was a remarkable statement that we don't hear often in law enforcement. But I'm wondering how that's gone over. Is that something in the Sacramento Police Department that everybody widely accepts, or is that something that you believe and you're trying to instill in the rank and file?
Well, I think it's, again, that one's probably all of the above also. We have over 1,000 employees in our department, and so that's going to come with a lot of different opinions. One of the things that we do, I actually do personally, I teach history at our academy and with our continuing education that all of our veteran officers have to go through. I teach it every week, the history that we weren't taught. So I think if you know the history of our country, you would know for a fact that there's racism in our history, there's bias in our history, not just in law enforcement, but all of society. And the first thing we have to do is acknowledge that and know that if we're going to be able to address it. So I think the reason why I teach it every week is because people need to understand the history that they were never taught.
Chief, good luck with the program. It would be interesting to see once you do start getting in data what it reveals. So hopefully we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And anytime you're out in Sacramento, whether it's on the river or in town, if you're coming through town, let us know. We'll be happy to take you out there and put you through the virtual reality system.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. You were going to take me out there and tie me up and teach me a lesson.
We'll at least get you through virtual reality first.
No, seriously, what you're doing is just great. Thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it, Chief.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.